Hey, Utah Mammoth fans, Tusks up, and welcome to your Utah Mammoth Daily Update. So, power play. What's the identity here? What are we doing? Last year, they were top 10 in the league, so that's very good. But there was a theme I noticed. So, I've noticed something with Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley specifically during the power play. They're phenomenal talents, obviously. I mean, that's not hard hitting journalism there. But sometimes they're out there searching for the perfect shot or pass. And sometimes on the power play, the perfect shot rarely comes. So too often they're circling, cycling the puck, looking for that one-timer setup to like Dylan Gunther or to each other instead of just putting the puck on net and letting chaos take over. Florida has proved it time and time again. You don't always need pretty. Crash the net, fire pucks from bad angles, make the goalie cough up rebounds, and let your teammates clean up the mess. That's how you create those greasy goals that win games. Utah's power play could benefit from that mindset. Forget perfection, and let's embrace the chaos. Speaking of chaos, let's talk about some lunch pail guys. Some guys that thrive when the game gets muddy, when the game gets all physical and punching and hitting and all that stuff. So let's talk about the bottom six, the grinders, the penalty killers, the heartbeats of any hockey team, really. We're still waiting for Spicy Tuna's first goal in a Utah jersey, and I can't wait for that moment. The Delta Center is going to explode. It just is. It's going to explode with joy when it finally happens. That place will sound like the roof is about to be separated from the arena. But it's not just about Spicy Tuna. Utah's bottom six is built to surprise teams with a little bit of a scoring punch. Guys like the young guns, Tij Ginla, Caleb Desnoyers, Daniil Butt. These young players, they're starting to find their footing when it comes to professional play down in the AHL, over in the KHL, what have you. And they could chip in offensively on those bottom six lines. Those guys aren't going to be out there to grind. That's going to be for Brandon Tanev. That's going to be for Spicy Tuna. Maybe even Boehner, Jack McBain. They're out there to change the game on the scoreboard. And that's how you build a dangerous four-line hockey team, is you get some offense sprinkled in with the guys who like to get messy. And so I think that will be a very big step up for the Utah Mammoth, adding a little scoring punch to those bottom six lines. And that will probably allow them to not get into as many overtime games. Wouldn't that be something? Huh? And maybe get some wins there. Ugh. All right, so now let's move it over to the blue line. Another blue line identity. I guess you could call this episode the identity episode. What's the identity of the blue line? So on defense, Utah is following a very clear model, I think. Think Tampa Bay. Think the Lightning. Obviously, Sergei grew up in that system. He cut his teeth in the NHL there and became one of the best defensemen in the league. And now he's setting the tone for the rest of the defensemen. John Marino isn't really a bruiser either. He's more finesse, more vision, more puck control, puck movement. So what this tells me is that the Mammoth want a defense that moves the puck, not just blocks shots. They want to transition fast, set up clean breakouts, and keep the play flowing. Get it on odd man rushes as fast as possible. And I think they have the defensemen to do that. Not just in the league, but in the pipeline as well. And don't forget about the young guns in that pipeline. Daniil Simashev, Maverick Lamoureux, I want to see a little bit more of. Both of them have the tools to jump into the rush and make an impact. That's what I think the DNA of this Mammoth blue line is, puck moving and not just stay-at-home grinders. They can do it with guys like Ian Cole, Sean Dursey a little bit, but the overall identity, I think, is going to be puck movers and getting the play moving, because that is what the identity and what we are looking for when it comes to this team getting that extra little spice, the extra little step, that edge to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is obviously the next step. Even the captain, Clayton Keller, has said that's the next step. If they don't make the playoffs this season, it's going to be considered a failure internally. I think they have another year before it's like a massive failure, before the red alert, you need to bash that red button emergency. I think they have another year. But with all the excitement and all of the hype and everything else that's surrounding the team, especially now that there's an identity, they're the Mammoth now, the jersey looks great. The jersey looked great last year too. I mean, just look at that. But you've got the logo that looks very clean, and there's something building here. And if Utah can make the playoffs year two, or I guess year 1.5, if you want to call it that, that would be really cool. and there would be a lot of emotion and a lot of stuff going on in Utah that hasn't really been seen since, I would say, the Stockton to Malone era. Maybe the Williams Boozer era, maybe, but something that we haven't seen here in a very long time. And so let's talk about our Utah hockey roots. Let's talk about where we came from. And we haven't come from very much. Let's be real. There are two names for us to remember that have come from Utah and have played in the NHL. For the longest time, it was Steve Konowalchuk. He went from Salt Lake City to the Washington Capitals, and he was pretty good. He had a few seasons in a row where he scored at least 20 goals. He had over 40 to 50 points in those seasons. So it wasn't like he was just some guy that was ferrying in between the AHL and the NHL. No, he played a very big role for the Capitals teams. Now, the Capitals teams weren't that good, but he still played a big role. And for a while, he was it. And he was a true pioneer of the game. Then Trevor Lewis came along. He went to Brighton High School, one of the rivals of my alma mater, Olympus, but he's still playing. And he's still the only active NHLer from Utah as of right now. Lewis has had a long, respectable career and lifted the Stanley Cup with the LA Kings, and he lifted a cup with the Utah Grizzlies, if you want to remember that. Why bring this up? Well, because now with the Mammoth here in Salt Lake, with our name, we have a brand now. We're just not the Utah Hockey Club. We're not just some also-rans, the leftovers of a, let's face it, a failed franchise in Arizona. Kids don't have to look hundreds of miles away for inspiration to play the game of hockey. I had a friend growing up who was a very, very good goalie. Hey, if you're watching this, Josh, hello. But he was a very good goalie, and if injuries didn't happen, if a couple of things broke his way, if there were scouts watching, I think he could have broken into the ECHL at the least. But that didn't really happen because there was not really a hockey scene here in Utah. Obviously, we had the Winter Olympics in 2002, but other than that, Utah Grizzlies were an afterthought. And that's why they're no longer in Utah with the Mammoth here. There just wasn't, the market's not big enough to house both. And so he had to look miles away for inspiration. He had to look for Marty Brodeur over in New Jersey. Dominic Hasek in Michigan. Theo Fleury in Pittsburgh. Like, those were his guys. But now, kids don't have to look that far. They can look and they can see Connor Ingram. They can see Karel Vejmelka. They can see Vitek Vanacek. So they don't have to look as far. They can see pro hockey in their backyard. Dream about wearing the Utah Mammoth jersey. Wearing it one day. And know that it's possible. Utah hockey has gone from producing two names in the history books to building a culture that could produce dozens more in the future. And you can see that with what Ryan Smith and Smith Entertainment Group are building in the community. All of these local rinks. He wants a ice hockey rink in every major municipality in the state of Utah. Not just Salt Lake City, in the state of Utah, and they're already making it happen in the majority of them. So this is a big investment, and this is something that is going to be very exciting to see because we love our winter sports here in Utah, and hockey is definitely one of them, and the momentum is building.